Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mike History 2. And today, I will be telling you about the third and final part of the life of Elizabeth II. Part 1 looked at her early life before she became queen. Part 2, we looked at her reign during the 20th century, and now we will look at her reign during the 21st century. In November 1997, the Queen and her husband held a reception at Banqueting House to mark the golden wedding anniversary. On the eve of the new millennium, the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh boarded a vessel from Southwark, bounded for the Millennium Dome. Before passing under Tower Bridge, the Queen lit the National Millennium Beacon in the Pool of London using a laser torch, which is pretty epic. Shortly before midnight, she officially opened the dome. During the singing of Auld Lang Syne, the Queen held hands with the Duke and British Prime Minister Tony Blair. In 2002, the Queen marked her Golden Jubilee, the 50th anniversary of her accession. Her sister and mother died in February and March, respectively. The media speculated on whether the Jubilee would be a success or a failure. She again undertook an extensive tour of her realms, beginning in Jamaica in February, where she called a farewell banquet memorable after a power cut plunged the King's House, the official residence of the Governor-General, into darkness. As in 1977, there were street parties and commemorative events, and monuments were named to honor the occasion. 1 million people attended each day of the three-day main Jubilee celebration in London, and the enthusiasm shown for the Queen by the public was greater than many journalists had predicted. In 2003, the Queen sued the Daily Mirror for breach of confidence and obtained an injunction which prevented Daily Mirror from publishing information gathered by a reporter who posed as a footman at Buckingham Palace. The newspaper also paid £25,000 towards her legal costs. Though generally healthy throughout her life, in 2003 the Queen had keyhole surgery on both knees. In October 2006, she missed the opening of the new Emirates Stadium because of a strained back muscle that had been troubling her since the summer. In May 2007, citing unnamed sources, the Daily Telegraph reported that the Queen was exasperated and frustrated by the policies of Tony Blair, that she was concerned with the British armed forces were overstretched in Iran and Afghanistan, and that she had raised concerns over rural and countryside issues with Blair. She was, however, said to admire Blair's efforts to achieve peace in Northern Ireland. She became the first British monarch to celebrate a diamond wedding anniversary in November 2007. On the 20th of March 2008, at the Church of Ireland, St. Patrick's Cathedral, Armagh, the Queen attended the first Maundy service held outside England and Wales. Elizabeth addressed the United Nations General Assembly for a second time in 2010, again in her capacity as Queen of all Commonwealth realms and head of the Commonwealth. The United Nations Secretary General, Ban Ki-moon, introduced her as an anchor for our age. During her visit to New York City, which followed a tour of Canada, she officially opened a memorial garden for British victims of the September 11th attacks. The Queen's 11-day visit to Australia in October 2011 was her 16th visit to the country since 1954. By invitation of the Irish President Mary McAleese, she made the first state visit to Ireland by a British monarch in May 2011. The Queen's 2012 Diamond Jubilee marked 60 years on the throne, and celebrations were held throughout her realms, the wider Commonwealth and beyond. She and her husband undertook an extensive tour of the United Kingdom, while her children and grandchildren embarked on royal tours of other Commonwealth states on her behalf. On the 4th of June, Jubilee beacons were lit around the world. While touring Manchester as part of her Jubilee celebrations, Queen made a surprise appearance at a wedding party at Manchester Town Hall, which then made international headlines. In November, the Queen and her husband celebrated their blue sapphire wedding anniversary, which is the 65th. On the 18th of December, she became the first British sovereign to attend a peacetime cabinet meeting since George III in 1781. The Queen, who opened the 1976 Summer Olympics in Montreal, also opened the 2012 Olympics and Paralympics in London, making her the first head of state to open two Olympic Games in two countries. For the London Olympics, she played herself in a short film as part of the opening ceremony alongside Daniel Craig as James Bond, which is pretty cool. On the 4th of April 2013, she received an honorary BAFTA for her patronage of the film industry and was called the most memorable Bond girl yet at the award ceremony. On the 3rd of March 2013, Elizabeth stayed overnight at King Edward VII's hospital as a precaution after developing symptoms of gastroenteritis. A week later, she signed the new Charter of the Commonwealth. Because of her age and the need for her to limit traveling. In 2013, she chose not to attend the biennial Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting for the first time in 40 years. She was represented at the summit in Sri Lanka by Prince Charles. On the 20th of April 2018, the Commonwealth Heads of Government announced that she will be succeeded by Charles as head of the Commonwealth, which she stated was her sincere wish. She underwent cataract surgery in May 2018. In March 2019, she gave up driving on public roads, largely as a consequence of a car crash involving her husband 2 months earlier. The Queen surpassed her great-great-grandmother, Queen Victoria, to become the longest-lived British monarch on the 21st of December 2007, and the longest-reigning British monarch and longest-reigning Queen Regnant and female head of state in the world on the 9th of September 2015. She became the oldest current monarch after King Abdullah of Saudi Arabia died on the 23rd of January 2015. She later became the longest-reigning current monarch and the longest serving current head of state following the death of King Bhumibol of Thailand on the 13th of October 2016 and the oldest current head of state on the resignation of Robert Mugabe on the 21st of November 2017. It's a lot of records right there. On the 6th of February 2017, she became the first British monarch to commemorate a Sapphire Jubilee, and on the 20th of November, she was the first British monarch to celebrate a platinum wedding anniversary. Philip had retired from his official duties as a Queen's consort in August 2017. Now, on the 19th of March 2020, as a certain virus was hitting the United Kingdom, the Queen moved to Windsor Castle and sequestered there as a precaution. On the 5th of April, in a televised broadcast watched by an estimated 24 million viewers in the United Kingdom, she asked people to take comfort that while we may have more still to endure, better days will return. We will be with our friends together. We will be with our friends again. We will be with our families again, and we will meet again. On the 8th of May, the 75th anniversary of Victory in Europe Day, in the TV broadcast at 9 p.m., the exact time at which her father George VI had broadcast to the nation on the same day in 1945, she asked people to never give up, never despair. In October, she visited the United Kingdom's Defence Science and Technology Laboratory in Wiltshire, her first public engagement since the start of the pandemic. On the 4th of November, she appeared masked for the first time in public during a private pilgrimage to the tomb of the unknown warrior at Westminster Abbey to mark 100 years since his burial. Now, as I myself covered, Prince Philip died on the 9th of April 2021 after 73 years of marriage, making Elizabeth the first British monarch to reign as a widow or widower since Queen Victoria. She was reportedly at her husband's bedside when he died and remarked in private that his death had left a huge void. Due to the COVID restrictions in place in the United Kingdom at the time, the Queen sat alone at Philip's funeral service, which evoked sympathy from people around the world. In her Christmas broadcast that year, she paid a personal tribute to her beloved Philip, saying, "That mischievous, inquiring twinkle was as bright at the end as when I first set eyes on him." Now, despite the pandemic, the Queen attended the 2021 state opening of Parliament in May and the 47th G7 summit in June. On the 5th of July, the 73rd anniversary of the founding of the United Kingdom's National Health Service, she announced that the National Health Service will be awarded the George Cross to recognize all NHS staff, past and present, across all disciplines in all 4 nations. Following an overnight stay in hospital on the 20th of October, visits to Northern Ireland, the COP26 summit in Glasgow, and the 2021 National Service of Remembrance had to be cancelled because of her health. The Queen's Platinum Jubilee began on the 6th of February 2022, marking 70 years since she accepted to take the throne on her father's death. On the eve of the date, she held a reception at Sandringham House for pensioners, local Women's Institute members, and charity volunteers. In her Accession Day message, Elizabeth renewed her commitment to a lifetime of public service, which she had originally made in 1947. Later that month, the Queen had mild cold-like symptoms and tested positive for COVID, along with some staff and family members. She cancelled 2 virtual audiences on the 22nd of February, but held a phone conversation with Prime Minister Boris Johnson, and the following day, amid a crisis on the Russo-Ukrainian border, which I'm sure would never escalate into a war. Then on the 20th of February, she was reported to have recovered and spent time with her family at Frogmore. On the 7th of March, the Queen met Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau at Windsor Castle, in her first in-person engagement since her COVID diagnosis. She later remarked that COVID infection leaves one very tired and exhausted. The Queen was present at the service of Thanksgiving for Prince Philip at Westminster Abbey on the 29th of March, but was unable to attend the annual Commonwealth Day service that month or the Royal Maundy service in April. She missed the state opening of Parliament in May for the first time in 59 years. In her absence, Parliament was opened by the Prince of Wales and the Duke of Cambridge as councillors of state. On the 17th of May, the Queen officially opened the Elizabeth line in central London. During the Platinum Jubilee celebrations, the Queen was largely confined to balcony appearances and missed the national service of Thanksgiving. For the Jubilee concert, she took part in a sketch with Paddington Bear that opened the event outside Buckingham Palace. On the 13th of June 2022, she became the second longest reigning monarch in history among those whose exact dates of reign are known, with 70 years and 127 days reigned, surpassing King Bhumibol Adulyadej of Thailand. On the 6th of September 2022, she appointed her 15th British Prime Minister, Liz Truss, at Balmoral Castle in Scotland, the first and only time she did not receive a new Prime Minister at Buckingham Palace during her reign. However, just 2 years later, it was too much cringe to handle as Buckingham Palace announced that the Queen was under medical supervision at Balmoral Castle after doctors expressed concern. By the way, that part I'm making up. But it is true that is when she was in hospital. The Queen's 4 children, along with her daughters-in-law and grandsons Prince William and Prince Harry, traveled to be with her, and her death was confirmed that evening, settling in motion Operation London Bridge and Operation Unicorn. She was 96 years old and had lived a very long and fruitful life. So ultimately, although it's been nearly a month now, still want to conclude the video by saying rest in peace.